So it's, do you leave the job that you have that's amazing for more money that likely won't be that culture? You have to pick or choose one. Welcome to Life Unleashed,
the podcast all about creating the best life for you and your furry best friend.
If you're a dog mom on the go, juggling life, work, and the endless joys of being a dog parent, then you're in the right place. I'm Dani.
And I'm Nick.
And together with the incredible dog mom community from Tails Up Pup, we're here to share advice, stories, and the obsession we have over the love for our dogs.
Get ready to laugh, learn, and lean on each other because life with your dog just got even more awesome.
Welcome back. The last episode was a very fun and entertaining one. Today, a little more serious, but we are going off the cuff. Usually we come with a little bit of notes prepared, and today we are speaking from the heart. So hopefully this goes smoothly. But this one was inspired by life right now for us, and something that comes to my mind quite often, and it's what is success? What determines success? All things success related, because oftentimes other small business owners or other aspiring dog bandana business owners come and say, I look up to you. You're so successful. How did you become so successful? A lot of friends and family now are like, wow, your business is so successful. And I'm like, what? At what point did something change to make them think that we are successful? From our perspective, are we successful? Yes. But we never feel successful because we always have more aspirations and more goals that we're constantly trying to achieve. So
we always raise the bar.
For ourselves, what we want for our success, we haven't achieved that yet. But in the grand scheme, we're not having to work a job that we don't want to. We're able to have freedom and make decisions. And we do run a business here. So when you look at it, that is successful. And I understand why other people look at us and say, how are you successful? Or how did you do it? And all of those things. But at the end of the day, I don't feel successful to my core because I'm still working towards something bigger.
I feel like so often, success, there's outside markers that people use to define success. So things that I know that people have used to define our success are oh wow, you have X amount of followers, or oh wow, you have an office space, or oh wow, you have employees, or those metrics. They like metrics and tangible things that they can point to and say.
Yeah, I do agree. I think having the employees in the office were the two biggest things that people our parents and the older generation would look and say, wow, y'all are so successful now, which I will give my 2 cents on how that doesn't really mean success. And it really just depends on your situation and what you're trying to grow. You can have something. Okay, to me, success is freedom financially and growing something that you're proud of. So you can grow something and have a financial freedom for yourself by yourself in your bedroom, making something. You could do dog bandanas that way. You could do digital online sales, something that way. There's so many endless possibilities, and it could just be one sole you, and that could still be successful. But to other people, it might not seem like success because you need to have something big and glamorous to show for it, when that is not necessarily true.
And I think sometimes you need to define the definition of success as that looks to you, because some people would say I want to be making $1 million a year. I want to be running a company that has 30 employees. I want to drive this type of car and live in this type of house. But maybe that person's working 90 hours a week, is stressed out of their mind, and they have no life basically, and they're not even enjoying the life that they're living, versus somebody that maybe makes $100,000 a year, say, and they work for themselves, they live on their own terms and all that stuff. That person may in a lot of ways be more successful, but the world, I feel and just in general, would say the other person's more successful.
The thing about followers too, I think I've talked about that. I know I've talked about this before. I just don't know specifically on a podcast. The thing about followers is if they're not genuinely there for you, if they came from something like giveaways, or if you bought followers or however you got them, there are people with way more followers than us who have way less sales and way less interaction. And overall, I would much rather have less followers and have them all truly care to be there and like the content we're posting and want to be involved than have 5 times as many followers and them not care at all, and they're just there because they somehow got there one time, you know?
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's really easy to get caught up in those numbers, though. I mean, I know that I find myself getting caught up in that. You see the number of followers that somebody has, and you automatically are like, oh wow, like I wish I could have that, or like they must be so successful, and those types of things. One of the things that we're currently really going through with, I feel like, the vision of success from the outside world is right now we're in a transition period, moving out of our office, trying to move the business back to our house. And that is one of those things that seems like on the outside of why would you ever do that? The having an office as goals. We've done both of them. We started in the house, we went to the office, and really we built a team and tried to do all this stuff, associated with really needed an office space. But that really wasn't the business model that worked best for us. And people would think that it's taking a step backwards going into our house, but they don't really realize that it's like, actually, we're going to be happier. We'll make more money. All of the things are better for us in that way.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the employees too, because if you've been following us for like 2 years, even 2 years ago, we had way more employees than we have now. And people say, what happened? Or like, is your business failing? We are making more revenue now than we did then, but employees cost so much money. And so if it's very hard, because if an employee is working, but they're not revenue generating, then that can be really hard to continue to grow and make it worth it. But not every employee is going to be revenue generating, because if you're here to sew bandanas, you're not here to sell bandanas, So finding that balance, and right now, like I said, our revenue has grown since then. We've just found a different pattern that works for us. And I think the biggest key that we've learned is having someone who can do multiple jobs. So back then we hired someone just to sew bandanas and just to personalize bandanas and just to embroider. So now if we can have someone who could do a little bit of all of them, their time can be spread out and spent on different activities. They don't get bored. They're more entertained because they're moving around. They're able to do other things. And then, say for example, one day there's not enough bandanas to be sewn to fill their whole time. There's nothing for them to do. They could do something else.
That's right. Well, it's the same type of thing as like this office is so expensive to run. And because we only have people come pick up stuff here, it's not like we have a store where people come shop. It's really just space for us to work out of. And if our house has that, it's the exact same situation.
We've learned so much about ourselves, about the business that we want, about how to run a business, how to manage people, and where we want Tails Up Pup to go in the future. And I think we had to do all of these things to figure that out. So to me, they're not mistakes. They were things that we had to do to get to where we are now and to get to where we want to be in the future. So I'm glad we made all of these steps, because we would have never known the things we know now without doing those things.
And sometimes I think that the vision of success is really set by these like big companies, and you see that and you're like, oh, we need to do that type of stuff. But it's like, what you don't realize is a lot of these big companies, particularly for like the first few years, and sometimes even longer than the first few years, they're not actually making any profit,
which is crazy.
Yeah, they're making no profit. The only way that they're able to stay in business is they have investors continuing to give them more and more money. I mean, Uber was that way. Even Amazon was that way for so many years. Amazon never posted a profit because they were growing and having to reinvest all that money, and so they weren't actually being profitable. But when you're a small business and you're trying to go off that model, most of the time you don't have the type of investors. You may have no investors, like we don't, or if you did have some investors, you don't have as many investors as Amazon does, and so you're eventually going to run out of money. And even though you're building something great, it's going to run out of money and it's going to fail. But when you're trying to build off that blueprint, it's tough.
Yeah, it's hard because you look up to these people, you aspire to be these people, and when I realized that people are doing that to us, that's the whole purpose of this podcast right now, is to show that you might watch our videos on social media and want what we have, and it's all to say that sometimes what we have isn't the best. So back to this office space and us deciding on that, by the time this podcast goes live, we could have already announced and said that we're moving. We just don't know right this second. We possibly are moving. It's just not official yet. And we want to move the office back into our house. But the house that we have now just doesn't work well. You know that we built Tails Up Pup in our basement that we have now, but it's not ideal to go back in that basement. It is small. So we are looking for a bigger space so that we can have the best of both worlds for us. Because to have this office space, you have to make so much more revenue and profit to be able to pay those expenses just to have this building. So if we're going to be living in a house that we already pay for, we may as well also have our business in there if it could fit and work well for us, so that we don't have to pay an additional rent that is very high for what we're doing. And this space is a retail space, and we are not a retail store. So we're paying retail rent. So this location is not ideal for us. But even if we moved somewhere else, it's just expensive to have an office space. So for us, when we've reevaluated what is 2024 going to look like for us, we thought that we might try to move into a bigger house that had a better setup for Tails Up Pup and our house, and move out of the office. So that is what we're looking to do right now. And the other part of that equation is something that most of y'all cannot relate to at this moment in your life, but I am a business owner going to have a baby. So what is that going to look like? And I mean, a lot of y'all have asked, what is maternity leave going to look like for me? How am I going to work with a baby and all of that? And for me, a lot of those answers are solved by being in the house, because having to get in a car and come to the office is a whole added stress and additional almost like issue for me, especially in the early on parts of having a baby, because truly this business can't really run without me right now. Nick is very well equipped, and so is Ensley, to do most of the jobs, but there's a lot that I do here that at this time no one else can do, and y'all don't really have time to do it. So,
and certainly with the embroidery and stuff, we don't have the expertise either.
I could teach them the basics, but I don't think that they have the time or ability right now to do all the jobs they do and my job. So ideally, obviously I need to take a little bit of time to recover, but once I have my baby, being able to be in the house and also have Nick, husband and wife duo, he can also watch the kid, which is very nice. But being able to have the baby sleep in its crib and then run downstairs and start the embroidery or whatever it may be, it just seems so much easier to me to have it all in one place. So that also is another reason. But the main reason is the expense and how much it costs to run an office space. And for us, we are glad we did it. We would have always wondered what if we didn't do it. We've had great memories here, but in the grand scheme, we think the office space is not the best situation for us at this time. And that's not to say that we would never have an office again. I'm always a never say never person, because so much has happened for us in 5 years. We've been in business for 5 years now. We never thought we would be where we are today. So we are very grateful, and it's just, you can never know what to expect. I think success, just the definition of it, that there's not really a true, real definition, because it is what you want it to be. And so as long as you're not living on the streets, not able to pay your bills, like obviously those things would make you feel not successful. But if your goal, like a lawyer is successful to everyone because they make a lot of money, but to me, that's not successful for me, because I would be miserable as a lawyer, Like for me, when I'm telling someone what I do, sometimes it's embarrassing to be like, oh, I make dog bandanas, because they're like, oh, really? Like, does that pay the bills?
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, obviously it does, or I wouldn't be doing it. And so I think it's hard for people to fathom that you could be successful doing it, but it works for us and it makes us happy. And we love interacting with the Tails Up Pup community. It's so cool that we've made so many friends there, so many relationships. We've learned so much, and we never set out to be business owners. And I think that we will probably always be business owners now.
It does feel like that. But I think at the end of the day, because all of us are different, you need to just sit down and think about, like, what do you want your life to be? And then when you think about that, if you can achieve that, that is your success. So if you want to be a lawyer and that's what you like, then, achieving that would be great. That is success for you. But like Danielle just said, that would be the opposite of success to Danielle. So I think it's important to kind of like define those things for yourself and to think about it ahead of time. Sometimes you got to go live it, just like what we did with The Office.
This topic is probably the hardest to talk about at this specific time in life, because this is just my personal opinion and how I'm feeling in life right now. But it is more hard now than it has ever been for me, because life is so expensive. It's so hard to make money, enough money to provide and have the life that you want to live. Now more than ever, I feel like the millennials want to travel and have nice things and go and do all these fun things. And to have enough money to do that in addition to paying all of your bills, it's just nearly impossible to always feel like you have enough money to do those things. And I know my friends that I've talked to also feel this way. And it's like, it feels like you can never catch up. You have to save money for your retirement and for your kids and like all this stuff. And that feeling of always wanting to do these things and not have enough money to do them will make you feel not successful no matter what,
Yeah, and that's the dangerous thing, like we said at the very beginning. If the bar keeps moving, that can be a very slippery slope. You have to sometimes, I think, look back and say, you know what, I have done some good things and I am successful, and give yourself a pat on the back, because I think you can get kind of down on yourself. I mean, it sounds like what you're just describing is like that can become a, very depressing and downing thing on yourself. And it's like, look, you've been able to do some things, look at the good.
Yeah, and you have to look back and like see where you've come from. If you've been in the work, how long have we been working now? Like 8 years? When did we graduate? Like 8 years?
2016.
How many years is it?
8 years.
Okay, so if you're like us and you've been working outside of college for 8 years, if you have the same exact position that you had when you graduated, you might want to strive for something different, whether it be a different job or move up in the company that you have. If you've already done that, you can look back and be like, wow, I have achieved some type of success because look where I came from. I started there and now I'm here. And I think that can really help you feel like you've achieved some type of success because you're making accomplishments in some type of direction.
And the thing is, and what I was saying is, if money is not the only definition of success, and if you got that job outside of college and you're like, this is what I like to do and this is the type of thing I'm going to do forever, maybe you don't want the promotion. Maybe that's the exact position that you want and where you want to be, and that's okay. For you, that's success.
So I was actually talking to someone yesterday, and she was really struggling with this because she has a new job. She absolutely loves it. It has the perfect work-life balance. She has a new baby, so she's able to work, make money, but be able to go home and have time with her kid. And she also gets to work from home sometimes. It's like the perfect balance. It's a great culture. She loves her boss. Everything in that realm is amazing, but she's not making as much money as she would like to. So it's, do you leave the job that you have that's amazing for more money that likely won't be that culture? You have to pick or choose one. And I told her, I'm like, from my perspective, happiness, if that amount of money is okay for you, if you're not struggling and it's okay, you just want more, I would stick with the better job that's making you happy. You're able to spend time with your kid. You're able to provide and contribute to your family income. All those things are great. You don't always need more money if it's not necessary.
No, but I think the world tells us we do. That's
right.
That's
and
kind
that's
of like
why she's debating it in her head.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the like underlying theme of this entire podcast is like the world is telling you one thing, and I think we all know in our heart sometimes, like, I'm not happy with this or whatever. Like, there's a lot of situation where you get that job, you would actually take it, you'd be making the more money, you'd be doing, and you're like, why am I still not happy? Why is that not fulfilling me? Well, that's because money by itself, after you make a certain amount, like you said, to cover the basic things, that's not really what's going to make you happy.
Yeah.
But it's very easy to say that when you on the other side of it. When you're trying to get to the more money, you're like, no, more money would pretty much always make me happy. And it definitely feels that way, I think.
I think social media is a big culprit of the comparison and the what is success, because nowadays everyone wants to have the big giant house, the beautiful white kitchen, the new this, the diamond bracelet, or the brand new Stanley Cup that everyone has. If you already have a cup that works well, you don't need to have the new expensive one, or even, it's $40. To some people that's expensive, to some people it's not. Whatever it may be, do you need a new cup? If the answer is no, then don't buy it. Same thing with the bigger house. To me, I always tell Nick would love a big house. Nick just loves big bougie things. We come from different places in life, and that's okay. And for me, I'm like, I don't want the big bougie house because I'm not going to clean it. And it's just not necessary. I want as many rooms as I need. I don't need extra space. It's just going to sit there. What is the point of having extra room that you don't use? And so for me, like, I just want to have what I need, and that's good enough.
Yeah, you're very practical.
Yes, I'm a realist.
You're a realist. I'm a dreamer.
You are.
Jim Carrey, I think, is the person that said this. He's like, I wish everyone could get rich and famous to see that is not the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So he says that. I mean, the Bible talks a lot about this, but it's very hard because I think most of our responses to it, like a Jim Carrey would be like, let me see. I'd like to see that for myself. Let me get rich and famous, and then then I'd like to know. Oh, well, maybe it's not the answer. But it's very hard to believe that if you've not lived it.
But if you talk to or listen to people in those situations, most of the time they're not happy anymore. And I think that's why they mean by like the catchphrase, money can't buy happiness. It's like, if you're in a situation, you're like, well, money could buy me relief or freedom. And that is true. But pure happiness, I feel like the people in the middle where you're paying your bills, you're not struggling, the people in the middle are usually the happiest because they are just, living the life. They didn't need extra. They didn't need more.
Yeah, it's really, that's the thing that's hard, and maybe that's our problem, Dani. We're keep raising the bar, and while it's good for us to strive after things, maybe we could be a little bit happier and savor the moment for the things that we have accomplished.
We're working on that.
We are working on it.
The other thing that's crazy
it's
to
hard.
me, this is so against my intuition, my heart, but I've learned a lot through TikTok, is how much people go into debt in their credit cards. It is wild to me because to me, that stresses me out. I'm like, we got to pay off the credit cards. You don't buy more than you need. For me, if I don't have money for it, I'm not buying. But this is all to say, just don't be fooled on social media. Make good choices for you because you don't know if that person was able to afford that car or afford that bracelet or whatever it may be. They could have easily went into debt and be paying off all of this credit cards debt for a very long time just to look like they could have something that they maybe should not have gotten.
Yeah, I think that is really good because like society will tell you the person that is driving the BMW has the nice watch, the really nice clothes, the nice handbag, eating at the super nice restaurant. That person is like, goals successful. That person's successful. And if you compare that to the person that drives, like a normal car, they live in a normal house, they go to your normal restaurants, those types of things, or maybe they cook in more often, that type of stuff. Maybe that one person is in, $50,000 of credit card debt, and the other person that is more frugal, they have $50,000 in their bank account. So society will tell you the other person is more successful, but in reality, who is more successful?
I actually just saw a video on this last night, but this girl sold her company for $100 million. And
wow.
Yeah, girl boss. But people were asking her questions, and this video topic was how her lifestyle changed from getting all of that money. And she said that her lifestyle did not change. That a few things on rare occasions, she wants to go on a nice trip or like take her friend to a nice dinner. But overall, she maintained the lifestyle that she had. And I feel like that's really hard for people who all of a sudden get money. It's like the people who win the lottery end up like going broke because they go crazy. And it's just like the famous thing, you get famous and you go crazy and like you have all this money and you don't know what to do with it. And then, it ends up doing more bad than good.
I guess the moral of the story about that is like you gotta work on who you are and be okay with that, and then money, the fame, that stuff, if it does come, it won't change you.
And that kind of goes to like knowing your values, like who do you want to be, who do you want to become, and what will get you there. And that's kind of like you can create your own success, and it doesn't matter what other people think. But if you do care what other people think, then try to work on that. Maybe you gotta care from within yourself.
Yeah, it's very hard. You have to like build up a self-worth thing. I had somebody the other day like ask me like kind of like, what's up with the haircut? Why do you cut your hair that way? And it's like, well, I do it because I like it and it's because it's easy, and I really don't care if anyone wants me to have grown out hair or a certain look or whatever. I like it, so I do it.
Yeah, I was actually, this is a little tangent, but I asked Nick, why am I so shy? I went to the gym and I could not physically speak to these people that I wanted to speak to. And he was like, you might care what they're thinking, but it's not that I care what they're thinking. I care what they're feeling, which is a very hard thing to overcome because like I didn't want, the thing was they were talking about being pregnant and I didn't want to offend them by assuming they were pregnant, even though I was eavesdropping and I heard them talking about it. So see, I went on a tangent here, but you were talking about caring what people think about you. So.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense.
Yeah. For me, I feel like that's something I'm good at. I'm not one who truly cares what people think about me, but you got to care a little bit. You know, everyone cares a little bit.
No, I think we all care a lot. It's just you have to overcome it to not let that run your life.
Yeah, that's hard.
I think you've really done a good job at that. And I think really filming in public, that is like one of the things that really shows you like, oh, now that helps you. You have to get over what people think about you to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you've never done it, and you think that it might be easy, pull out your phone and try to film yourself in the grocery store and talk to your phone. You'll get very, very nervous. I almost guarantee
Yeah, I
it.
still can't do that.
We used to do it more often.
Yeah, I've become a hermit.
I think you could do it if you started doing it again.
Well, all this is to say that success is what you make it. And know that who you're looking up to and what you think is successful may not truly be success. And that if you think you're taking a step back like us with this office space, that sometimes if that's the right decision for you, then that's okay. You got to make the right choices. And for us, we will be more successful because we will be able to have more money that's not wasted on rent in a space that's not ours.
Right. Not only is it okay, but it's probably the best decision, the good thing to do.
And we won't know until we do it and figure it out. And maybe we would wish that we have the office again. And sometime we might move back into an office.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe in a year or two from now, we'll be making the podcast of like why you need an office space.
I have said great things about having an office space. It creates great work-life balance. There's a lot of things that an office can do for you. You can have a lot more employees. You have a lot more space and freedom to do that. But again, there comes the expense. And for us, it's just not worth it at this time. So we have to make those decisions. And that seems to be the route that we are going right now. So yes, that is the little, I don't know.
Success talk
With Dani and Nick.
Yeah, this was really fun.
If you ever have questions or want to talk about success or something that you see us do and you want advice on, you can always send me a message. I will share the knowledge that I have. I don't feel like it's one of those things, you know, you're like, am I qualified? But yeah, I'm qualified. I've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah.
I could share what I know. If it's helpful to you, then that would be great.
And it's nice that you want to share.
Yeah, I would love to help someone if I'm able to. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.